say this too, and kudos to you, just so people know that this isn't about Rocky Miller. This is just that we disagree on a piece of legislation. But I want to say this. I thank you, and I'm a fan for the legislation that you've proposed that supports making the school year shorter statewide. So the businesses locally that depend on those, tourism dollars. And that's the foresight that you have, that so many of us do see that you champion so many rights at the lake. So this isn't a matter of, you do a lot of great things and we acknowledge it. And I just want to say thank you for having that insight that you do try to protect the businesses here. So it's not that, again, we just have a difference of perspective, but I appreciate so much of what you do. And you really champion so many causes, from abortion to Lake of the Ozarks, that I can't even tell you enough how much I appreciate
what you do. And that's why it concerns me when you say something. If somebody else says something, to be quite honest, I'll talk to them and we'll discuss things. But when you say something, Stacy Shore, it concerns me in the fact that you are an advocate for the area.
Right.
And when you say something, I'm concerned of the negative consequences. And that's what I'm worried about is I had somebody say, well, that's it. I'm not going to develop anymore at Lake of the Ozarks until this is taken care of.
It needs to be taken care of, Rocky, because it's the truth.
And I agree with you.
The truth has negative consequences.
I agree
sometimes.
with you, and it's working its way through. However, here's the deal. That's a little extreme.
I disagree 100%.
We both disagree on that. However, I told the guy, I said, you are then very well needing the very low interest rate you are taking from the bank now rather than the higher interest rate you would have if you would go ahead and develop here at Lake of the Ozarks.
Again, my point is you sponsor a lot of good legislation, but this is a really bad piece of legislation.
I disagree with you.
I know that.
And so that's
noted.
fine. And we both get it. Let's
move on to David Woodsville.
Let's hold on for just a moment. Let's understand one thing, that I think once this comes to a vote, if indeed this legislation remains in place, I don't think that the other legislators that will be voting on this have the understanding that all of us in this room have based on how this lake works. Right. And so much depends on this place being open when it needs to be open, so the livelihoods of people that work and live on the water, all the folks that are involved with the boating industry in one way, shape, or form or another. And there's so much, and not just those folks, the hotels and the motels and any business and every business, restaurants and retail. And I mean, the list goes on and on. I could sit here and try and name them all off, but I would inevitably leave something out. The point of the matter is this discussion needs to be made available to the folks that are going to be voting on this bill so they understand the full impact of what it is they're voting on. Because, you talk about the Lake of the Ozarks, there are other waterways in the state, none more popular, in my opinion anyway, than this particular waterway. Truman Lake, which, does a great job, and Pomme de Terre and other areas. But the number one recreational lake in the country, which we've all said at least once during this discussion here this morning so far, it begs the attentiveness of those legislators so that everybody has the full idea of what it is they're voting on. So they look at it and they say, oh, yeah, okay, that's no big deal. And they vote on it, and the next thing you know, there are people that are thinking in the backs of their minds, and I agree.
The next thing you know, the Water Patrol is merged with the Highway Patrol. That's the next thing you know.
Oops. That's the next thing you know.
And that's why it's important. We have a great crew here. I appreciate the fact that we've got Diane Franklin, we've got David Wood. We have three total representatives that the lake is their center of what they think about.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from my perspective, absolutely, the demerger of the Highway Patrol and Water Patrol is something that everybody needs to get behind. We know what we had on Lake of the Ozarks and statewide. The Water Patrol has a tremendous effect on our livelihood and on our lifestyle. So, I'm a huge supporter of Diane's bill.
Well, she'll be in on March the 4th to discuss that here on this program. Go ahead.
Can I just say one quick thing to your point and Rocky's point? The issue is when a bill is sponsored in Jefferson City, the hard part is, just to your point, when you go, I get 3 minutes as a citizen. Mm-hmm. I have to sit in front of a committee and defend my position in 3 minutes. That's not enough time. And so that's the frustrating part, is that's how you redress your government when it comes to a bill that's sponsored, that they may not see the negative consequences. we don't have much ability to have a voice. And that's the frustrating part, is that how do we do that? Well, you're right. They don't have an idea what they vote on 90% of the time. And part of my worry, and I've seen it happen year after year, a bill like this one or David Wood's or parts of his bill could get extrapolated as amendments and tagged on to Diane Franklin's bill. And that's another real concern that I have, because I see these omnibus bills grow big, hairy, ugly legs and take off in a direction that they were never intended to take off in the first place. That's a concern to me.
And
well,
certainly,
just like the merger of the Water Patrol and Highway Patrol.